is Thursday the 5th of December 2013, and this is a follow-up video to my earlier video about DarkSkyWatcher74 Tree of Might and his videos about these mystery objects that he was supposedly tracking through his telescope a few nights ago. Now he's really laid it on thick with this video, and he's made several videos including this one. Those aren't satellites, NASA, Mr. Sulu Warp 9 now, enhanced images. And if we have a look at his channel, we can see that he's actually uploaded quite a few videos. He's really trying to cash in on making something out of what it isn't. Okay, we've got this video here which also looks at the update. 2 UFOs appear to be docking. We've also got this one here, NASA satellite defense grid possibly identified, or UFOs. And what else have we got? The chase part 2, tracking these objects. Now this was part of the original video, and I find it interesting that the video that was nearly 3 hours long, which pretty much told the whole story, which is where I got involved and actually positively identified these objects for him, he's either removed this video or made it private. But that's okay, Dark Sky Watcher, because I've already downloaded the video. I already have a copy of it, so as I do whenever you upload a new video where you make claims like this, first thing I do is download it, because we know by now that this is what you do. You know, you upload these videos, you make all these crazy claims, you post stolen images, like the image of Saturn that you stole from the Singapore Observatory this time last year, and then when you get caught out you remove your videos. But you see, we're a step ahead of you, Dark Sky Watcher, because we save your videos as soon as you post, and we also take screenshots of the description area of your video, so that when you go and change them like you do, or you change the description, the title like you do, we already have a copy. Okay, so now back to these 4 objects that are supposed to be part of a NASA satellite defense grid, which apparently destroyed Comet Ison, or whatever Comet Ison really is supposed to be in your mind. Now let's take a look at this. We're back into Starry Night, and over the past while, maybe few months, Dark Sky Watcher has taken a liking to filming the Orion Nebula, and it's quite understandable because the Orion Nebula is quite spectacular. But what he's discovered is that when he's locked on to the Orion Nebula, and I'll start this playing while I'm talking, while he's locked on to the Orion Nebula, he's been noticing that these strange objects come into view. And if you look on the right hand side, you can see one coming into view now. And they seem to cut right through the Orion Nebula as he's watching. And what are these mystery objects? Well, anybody that's got a satellite dish on the side of their house so that they can watch satellite TV will know where those signals come from. They come from communication satellites. And those communication satellites are parked in Earth orbit, in a geosynchronous orbit, so that as the Earth turns, the satellite is orbiting at the same rate that the Earth turns. Now this means that unlike the satellites that we're more familiar with, the ones that you can see that cross the sky, they look like a little star but travels across the sky in a straight line. These geosynchronous satellites actually follow the Earth, and you can't actually see them moving unless you're looking through a telescope and you're zoomed right in, because these objects actually turn at the same rate that the Earth turns. So you're not going to notice them unless you're zoomed right up, as we see here. Now this is exactly what Dark Sky Watcher was seeing when he had his telescope locked on the Orion Nebula on the 30th of November. Here are 4 communication satellites: EchoStar 17, Anik F1R, Anik G1, and Anik F1. 4 communication satellites. You can Google these names and you can read all about them. They're fixed in position, and they're always there because they're geosynchronous satellites. The one thing that will change is their apparent relative positions to each other as you're looking from any point where you can see them on the Earth, because like any satellite, they're not in a perfectly circular orbit around the Earth, they're in an elliptical orbit, and that means that sometimes they're at perigee, which means closest point to the Earth, and sometimes they're at apogee, which means furthest point to the Earth. So sometimes they're higher and sometimes they're lower, and because of that and because of the observing location, they will appear to slightly change their positions in relation to each other. But just like the satellite, the communication satellite that your satellite dish is pointing at on the side of your house, you'll notice that your satellite dish does not automatically change its position to track the satellite across the sky. So the point being is that the satellite that your satellite dish is pointing to doesn't move. Yes, it moves higher and it moves lower, but it doesn't move left and right. Now, back to Starry Night and what we're seeing here. We're seeing these 4 satellites crossing the field of view. Why are they moving? I just said that these geosynchronous satellites don't move. Well, the reason that they appear to be moving is because our view, or a simulated view of DarkSkyWatcher's telescope, is actually locked on to the Orion Nebula. And of course, as the Earth turns, all of the stars and the planets and the Sun appear to move across our sky. Of course they don't. It is the Earth turning. So when you have a telescope, oh, there goes one of those satellites, just cut through from the top to the bottom. Okay, so when you have a nice, reasonable sized telescope, as DarkSkyWatcher has now purchased, it has a motor drive on it so that you can lock onto objects so that it'll track them across the sky. In this case, he's locked onto Orion. This means that the stationary satellites appear to be moving across the field of view, but they're not. Okay. Now, if instead we turn off the tracking, and all I need to do is shift the field of view, and we're no longer locked onto Orion, we see that our field of view doesn't change, and instead Orion is actually moving now. This is because of the rotation of the Earth. Now, this brings out some very interesting points about DarkSkyWatcher's claims. He claimed that he was tracking these objects. He wasn't tracking them at all. All he did was turned off the automatic tracking on his telescope, which meant that Orion moved out of view, and all of the stars were going past because of the Earth was turning. But the satellites remained within the field of view of his telescope, because as the Earth turned, just like the satellite dish on the side of his house, they were still pointing at the same satellites. These satellites aren't going anywhere. If he goes out tonight and points his telescope at exactly the same place, they'll be right there, just as they were on the 30th of November, and they will be tomorrow night and the night after that. Now, let's step this up a bit because this gets really interesting. I'm going to turn on the orbits of just one of these satellites, just as a track, so we can see. That's the blue line you see, right? And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to lock onto one of these stars in Orion. Let's pull it back there, and we can see our satellites are moving out of view. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to change the time units to minutes so that we can speed this up. And we can see that I've got the date set to 30th of November. It's 1:06 AM. It's his DarkSkyWatcher74s location in Kingman, Arizona. I'm going to zoom out a little bit so we can see a bit more of the sky. There are our 4 satellites that DarkSkyWatcher claimed that he was tracking. So now I'm going to step this forward 1 minute at a time, and we're going to see what happens. We've already seen a cluster of 4 satellites go through. So what happens if I step this forward 1 minute at a time? And remember, we're locked onto Orion. Okay, there are another couple of satellites, EchoStar 11, EchoStar 10. Here come 3 more. Now, he's been claiming in his videos that he's been tracking hundreds of these objects, these mysterious objects cutting through the Orion Nebula. Yep, he sure has. They're satellites. Let's keep going. I'm sure you get the idea anyway. What DarkSkyWatcher is doing is being very deceptive. He's filming satellites, geosynchronous satellites, through his telescope and claiming that they're anything but. And why? Because it's good for views. And good for views means, in his case, because he's monetized his channel, more money, because he's making money off his videos, which is why you are subjected to watching advertisements before you can watch his BS videos. Now look at this, we've got 5 satellites in this one, and by now you'll have the idea that through this track, and let me zoom out some more, I've got, by the way, I've imported the whole catalogue of listed satellites into Starry Night. By default, there are only a limited number of satellites imported into Starry Night because, as you can imagine, when you've got 40,000 objects loaded into Starry Night, it tends to slow the program down. So they only load up the brightest objects that you would normally see with your eyes crossing the sky. But I mean, look at all these labels. The further out that I go, you'll see that some of the labels drop off. If I go in closer, you'll see new ones appear. So as I'm zoomed out, we don't actually see all of the labels. So all we're seeing in DarkSkyWatcher's videos of these mysterious objects that he claims are anything but, they are satellites. They're communication satellites, and as I say, you can look them up. I've given the details, I'll put them in the description area. You can Google them, you can check them out, you can get the coordinates from certain websites, and you can set up your telescope, you can point your telescope at them, and you can see them for yourself if you are in a location where they are visible in your sky. I won't see them from here in New Zealand because they are geosynchronous, and obviously they can be seen from Arizona, but they can't be seen from New Zealand. Okay, but for anyone who is in that area or in the United States, you will be able to see these satellites very easily with the right coordinates if you look through a telescope. So there we have it, DarkSkyWatcher exposed again. He's using videos of satellites and claiming that they are all sorts of things from a NASA defense system, NASA satellite defense grid possibly identified, or UFOs. He's calling them UFOs. He's claimed that they shot down Comet Ison. All great for views, but not very honest. If you are a subscriber of DarkSkyWatcher74 Tree of Might, or one of his viewers, you should be aware by now that he is lying to you. He has been caught out faking images, he has been caught out stealing images, and I intend to post some more videos exposing his antics. We have downloaded his videos and we've taken screenshots, and we have the evidence, and because of his continued deception I've decided to up the ante, and we will be exposing him. As always, do check out my Facebook discussion page, Voices of Reason to Explain X, or VORTEX. You'll find a link in the description area. Thank you for watching. Hello YouTube, this is Dazza the Cameraman. Today is Thursday the 5th of December 2013, and this is a follow-up video to my earlier video about DarkSkyWatcher74 Tree of Might and his videos about these mystery objects that he was supposedly tracking through his telescope a few nights ago. Now he's really laid it on thick with this video, and he's made several videos including this one. Those aren't satellites, NASA, Mr. Sulu Warp 9 now, enhanced images. And if we have a look at his channel, we can see that he's actually uploaded quite a few videos. He's really trying to cash in on making something out of what it isn't. Okay, we've got this video here which also looks at the update. 2 UFOs appear to be docking. We've also got this one here, NASA satellite defense grid possibly identified, or UFOs. And what else have we got? The chase part 2, tracking these objects. Now this was part of the original video, and I find it interesting that the video that was nearly 3 hours long, which pretty much told the whole story, which is where I got involved and actually positively identified these objects for him, he's either removed this video or made it private. But that's okay, DarkSkyWatcher, because I've already downloaded the video. I already have a copy of it, so as I do whenever you upload a new video where you make claims like this, first thing I do is download it, because we know by now that this is what you do. You know, you upload these videos, you make all these crazy claims, you post stolen images like the image of Saturn that you